Hi, Rowan. Guess who it is? Oh, shit. Who are you? It's Dysphoria. Hello. Oh, God. Please don't hurt me. Yes. Be afraid. Look. You've got boobs. God. Wait a minute. And I'm going to torment your every waking move until... Fuck off, bitch. Hello, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the cinematic intro. I have been turned back into a human after an evil witch cursed me into becoming a PNG, so you'll be happy to know that I'm fine now. But I'm not here to talk about myself. Have you been down and out about your identity? Have you seen friends feeling down and out about their identity? You've seen the title of this video, so you already have an idea on what is going to go down today. Wow, I can't speak. So let me just explain something. Before this video was going to be about J.K. Rowling, I was going to call her out and evaluate her as a person because to me, she seems like a very self-conscious or swept away by fame kind of person, clinging on to whatever popularity she has. And basically, it was just gonna be a very doom and gloom video. I was getting screenshots of her posts on infected Twitter. I know, I was on that app, crazy. And I was just going through such a bad feeling of dread. I was sad I wasn't enjoying making the video. And then I realized, this is not the kind of thing that I want to put out onto the internet. Things are looking pretty bad nowadays, and I think, as a man with a camera and a sort of working mic, more positive content needs to be spread. There's already been videos about JK and the fact that she seems very proud of her femininity while at the same time choosing a masculine name to publish her books under because more people would read it. Doesn't seem very proud. And I hope that she gets therapy because girl is delirious faux serious. But anyway, I said that this video was not going to be about that. I'm gonna start off with my own story, just to start with. And if you don't want to hear that mumbo jumbo, then you can just skip it because I love you and I don't care. I think that while there are significant downsides to being trans, you know, people can look at you differently. People can literally murder you due to their own prejudice, dysphoria, etc. But that isn't what being trans really is. That pain from dysphoria is brewed from stereotypes and nuclear families. And those people's prejudice, and those people's prejudice comes from their own uninformed and biased opinions. Being transgender is just an identity like being cis is. It just isn't recognized in the same way, again due to bias. And actually, a lot of scientific debunkings for transgender people are some of the most ill-informed and unscientific things I've ever heard. They're more ill than me, and I've got a cold right now. Don't know if you could tell. I'm going a bit off topic for an intro, but if you're a returning viewer, then you should know my content by now. And you should know that this is what we do here, we get distracted. But on my transgender guide video, someone commented a civil rebuttal. Their comment strand has now gone because they have deleted their comments. Obviously. I wonder why, but they still interest me. Having this encounter led me to realize a few things about people who don't support trans people. Firstly, they do not listen to transgender people. I know that's a given, but you'd think if you were doing this for the greater good, then you'd try and, help, actually. Secondly, I don't know, that's kind of it. Them not listening causes a lot of problems, especially for them. This commenter completely ignored everything that I said in my video and chose to say that we aren't supported by science because we claim that we are souls trapped in the wrong body and no one can prove that souls exist. Which nobody said, by the way. These people like to make up a lot of their own problems and then just put it on blast while we're out here doing nothing. But anyway, don't worry, I corrected him politely each time he sent a long paragraph repeating his prior point that I just disproved. And then I pointed out, hey, you seem stressed out, or like you're panicking, like try to take a break and calm down. And he was like, no, my friend, I am not panicking. At this point, this was his third paragraph, and I stood my ground because he was getting more frantic, and I said, listen, I know you might say that, but you sound like you've been through some deep rabbit holes and you seem mentally unstable. Please take care of yourself and, like, refrain from commenting. And then he deleted everything. But that is just a freaky commenter story. That is just me showing how people trying to debunk us are just now factually incorrect after all the medical evidence that has come out. So let me get back on topic. This video is going to be more talking about the experience of being transgender and not a lot about the science backing it. So if you're interested in a more like biology oriented discussion, then go check out my video where I talk all about that, and I'm going to link it right there. But I'm going to frame the video like this: my story, joint survival, self-discovery and community, and then the wrap-up. Because when things are uncertain, there's always a glimmer of hope hidden behind the clouds. And today is a very cloudy day. So, let's get started. Yes, I'm starting another video with my own story because I think it's important for people in a community like this to hear about each other's experiences. It can make people feel heard or understood or like, I don't know, but it's important. I have always been a weird kid, if you could ever tell. I never really talked to a lot of other kids, or I tried, but they didn't really want to be friends with me. But I do remember having a few really good friends throughout my time in primary school. One thing I do remember is sitting down on the floor in year 3, and my best friend at the time said to me, "Are you a tomboy?" Just immediately, I was like, yes! And I just protested the very idea of being girly. I hated pink. I hated everything to do with femininity. Now, that isn't necessarily an indicator for being transgender as a child. Obviously, plenty of women have been through this. I was there when the other girls thing was, popular back in the day. But for me, when I think back to this, it makes me feel a bit like this was a sign that my brain structure was starting to change. Or it was changed from the very beginning. Insinuating that it never changed and I was always like this, but we keep going. Your relationship with gender can start from as young as 3 years old, so it's no wonder that I was a bit confused. Everyone called me a girl, she, and honestly I didn't know why. I had such a disconnection to those pronouns and that gender, but I didn't realize why. I still wore dresses and stuff, and I ate while I was doing it, but I didn't really care about anything to do with gender, I don't think. I just didn't like being perceived as feminine. And then puberty hit. I started to realize something was definitely wrong. My body was producing estrogen, and my brain was just like, whoa, this is not what's supposed to be happening, what's going on? And I started to have a bit of a queer crisis. Was I a lesbian? No. Was I pansexual? Not really. Then what the freak was wrong? I don't think I made any great realization until around year 8 when my friend asked me, "Do you think you're trans?" And I was like, I watched a few videos about trans people before, like a father coming home from the army and finding out his son was now his daughter and hugging her, all that kind of nice stuff, but I never really thought about it for myself. Me and my friends sort of chose our gender identities right there because we were young and didn't really understand anything, but that stuck. I called myself Alex, and I used he, him. But then as time passed, I sort of grew my knowledge and I felt like something still wasn't right. I did a full freaking circle from non-binary to demi-boy and then all the way back to trans man again. I did a lot of thinking about myself and my gender, and although at first it sort of felt like a silly decision, I realized I was way happier. My brain was finally like, oh okay, so that's what was wrong. My hormones didn't align with what my brain was, but I was okay. And when I was secure with my gender, dysphoria was bad. Everything about myself was just so feminine. My waist, my chest, my voice. I'm just so short and my face is so soft. Waiter, waiter, there's too many sprinkles on my ice cream. There's too much gravy on my pie. My steak is too juicy and my vegetables are too rich. I went through so long just being so depressed, but as I did more research and I started to give myself therapy and learn ways to cope, I realized something. And I think any trans person going through this sort of problem really needs to hear this. It does not matter! Your sex or your dress sense does not make your gender. Everybody looks different and genuinely it just doesn't matter. I am a small man with a cute waist and a hot voice. My jawline is quite square and I'm comfortable with my own body. And of course, I'm still gonna get top surgery and go on testosterone, but that is just my personal choice. Those are the biggest things that I want to change because they just sort of interfere with my gender expression. It's sort of off topic, but gender affirming care isn't just for transgender people. It's for those who may want Botox or different types of plastic surgeries. They want to affirm their gender expression, whether that's to look more feminine or more masculine. Either way, just being able to look like how you want is such an amazing experience, especially if you've worked hard to get there. It's gender euphoria, and that is something that I want to get into in this next section. Audre Lorde once said, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." And although she wasn't necessarily talking about trans people, it definitely resonates. In fact, she makes a really great point that I want to talk about for a hot second. I've said this before in another video, but individualism is capitalism's worst nightmare. The fact that trans people show so much bodily autonomy, we break through the patriarchy's nuclear family desires and show true self-expression despite the world finding us odd or disgusting. And that is what makes the people in power scared. That is the power we hold. Really, when other parts of the LGBTQ+ community were becoming more accepted, the media needed new ways to keep people on edge. So even though all throughout the 1930s to 1990s, when people looked at us with curiosity and we were interviewed respectfully, sometime in the 2010s, everyone just started viewing us as an epidemic. This is explained really well in the transgender issue, which I consider essential reading on this channel. If you haven't read it, you should pause this video and go watch it now! Or do it after. I can't physically stop you, I'm 5'3". But really, our own ability to change ourselves so dramatically, to understand that gender is a spectrum, completely ruins the nuclear family and really puts a spanner in the works for capitalism and the likes. With all of the odds against us, it can feel like we just have to survive. And honestly, yeah, we do. But there is so much more to this community than just survival. Because of safe spaces online and in real life, because of more people coming out and fighting for us, we can learn more about ourselves. That's for a different part of the video, but it kind of fits this section in a way. Trans people shape cultures. Think of Native Americans who embrace people's third or fourth genders, or Polynesian Fa'afafine. Trans joy really, really matters because when we are ourselves, we lift each other up. We are a really strong community. We can push back against the dominant narrative of survival, that our existence is just suffering and pain, because let's face it, that isn't our fault, that is society's. And forgiving me for turning into the Joker. Oh god, it's the woker. Okay, but we are more than just a debate. A debate that doesn't even need to be had. It's like arguing if climate change is real. Yes, it definitely is. Look at the charts. There are so many moments for trans joy, and I am so happy to even just be talking about it. By showing our joy, we are redefining our survival, because really, survival isn't just about staying alive, it's about finding and carving out joy where most of us would just expect pain. Choosing to laugh and find pleasure in our lives when it gets rough. To celebrate ourselves is a gorgeously radical act of resistance, because you know that the big bad moneymakers hate to see that coming. And just the small things, passing in public when someone calls you your correct pronouns, is just an ecstatic feeling. I went on holiday in July and I was wearing a pretty awesome button up with shirts. Honestly, I'd accepted the fact that as long as I had long hair and I wasn't on tea, nobody in public would get my right gender or pronouns. In the elevator was me, Minty, and this iconic older guy with a Hawaiian shirt and the best mustache I have ever seen. He literally looked like Donald Stewart from Benidorm, but like with a mustache. And me and Minty were squabbling over rock, paper, scissors. And this guy just goes, "Is he mansplaining to you?" You know, in a joking way. And I had to just like hide my joy and just carry on the conversation normally. And when I got out, I was skipping down the hallway. I promise you that. I was so happy. That was the first time since I'd come out in like year 8 or 10, I can't remember the specifics, that I'd passed. Someone had called me by my right pronouns and like my right gender in public. But stuff like that just makes your day. And you're just like, yeah, I'm really glad that I made this realization. I'm happy that I made these changes. Because let's face it, transitioning can be overwhelming. You can get opposition from all angles, but when you have moments like these, it kind of makes it all worth it. Obviously, you don't exist for other people, but it is really, really nice to feel valued in your identity. Even if they don't realize, like, what they're doing, you feel seen. That's trans joy. Okay. When you discover your name, your pronouns, your gender, you discover a community as well. I actually didn't have a community of trans people around me to support me when I was a young trans kid. I think that, like, online, I didn't talk to too many other transgender people either. I think I got LGBTQ plus, like, content on TikTok, but that was on the occasion. And that was it. As I got older, I met more people like me and I learned a bit more about the community. As I got older, I met more people like me and I learned a bit more about the community. Like, people shared what binders to get, what binders to avoid, how you don't have to medically transition, and they shared advice on dysphoria and depression. Communities like this are such a beautiful place, and they are an endless bucket of love and advice. There can be drama, yes, of course, but we are one big, huge family, and that's to be expected. I think that I genuinely wouldn't be at the point I am today with my dysphoria and transition without the help and advice of countless trans strangers on the internet helping me out. I'm part of a Tumblr community for FCMs, and I cannot tell you how great of a place that is to like just read through sometimes. There is so much advice and positivity and just random posts to encourage people. Everybody is lifting each other up. And speaking from experience, it's difficult to find communities like this unless you search for them and actively engage with them. Only recently, like the past year, I've found trans creators online that really do deserve mentions. Most of them are FTMs, purely because, like, I am FTM, and I kind of need that knowledge on testosterone and top surgery and stuff. But if you have any amazing, beautiful MTF creators, then please, please, please mention them in the comments and give them some love, because our girls deserve it. I've subscribed to a few trans creators, and the ones that have really lifted me up and entertained me were like Miles Chronicles, Jamie Dodger, Benji Astrom, Ryan, and probably one of the most cheerful people I have ever seen, Eddie Fade Walker. What a freaking cool last name. Anyway, yeah, there are just so many creators within the trans community that are just so amazing and have helped me out just so much. Whether that's with my videos or with my own life, I do think that engaging with your community can really help you discover yourself as well. Like, don't base yourself again on, like, anybody else. But seeing someone dressing like a certain way despite their gender identity, or saying something about something or other and going, oh, I never actually thought about that, is terrific. For example, I used to really avoid like longer hair or more feminine style accessories, but I saw some people online explaining that the way you express yourself doesn't make you any less trans. And while that may seem obvious to some people, others really do need to hear it. And hearing that made me realize that I could literally do whatever I want because, one, character customization and I love fashion. Choo choo, it's just my clothes and that means nothing for my gender. I even wore a dress or two at times and I've tried he, she pronouns, but ultimately that was not 100% of my own accord and that's not who I am today. It is really good to experiment with yourself though and see what makes you feel comfortable. So just experiment. But if you're a man, trans or cis, who wears dresses or enjoys girly things, then good for you, diva. And, vice versa. But to make a long story short, finding your style and your identity and looking in the mirror and seeing you after being unhappy for so long and not knowing why is just euphoric. And if you haven't quite gotten there yet, I promise you it is not a far off dream. It's your future and you're gonna live it! Oh, what time is it? The beginning of the end of the video? Let's start wrapping up. Pride started as a riot, a protest, started by none other than the gorgeous Marsha P. Johnson. People debate over whether or not she actually threw the first brick at Stonewall, but if you ask around, most of the answers would lead to Mrs. Johnson. Even if she didn't, she was an icon that paved the way for so many opportunities and helped so many people. She was an inspirational activist that advocated for homeless LGBTQ+ youth and those affected by AIDS and HIV. People like her, who fight and speak up and don't give up until their dying breath, who never fail to smile, are the people that help, us as a society grow. You don't have to smile. There isn't a lot to smile about. But there is you. There's us, there's the world, and there is hope as a concept and as a reality. That is something to smile about and fight for. Some, including me, would argue that transgender rights actually help hold up a lot of other rights as well, including rights regarding bodily autonomy, like abortion. I mean, now with the UK government deciding that woman refers to a biological, female, meaning with the ovaries and such, then what happens to intersex people who identify as women? What happens to those without ovaries or ovarian function? Why did they only pick on trans women? Is it misogyny? Obviously. But what can we do? We can fight for our trans sisters, our cis women who want medical care, libraries to be filled with informational and instructional literature for LGBT youth and just anyone really. We can fight for our rights and love one another because communities are filled with love and pride. You can scream from the rooftops. You can make a demonstration. You can share art, create interpretive dance choreography because you can make a difference. Trans people are not wholly different from cis people. We are just like them type of person. And these types of people want their rights back, please and thank you. Actually, speaking of, I don't know if you've heard that trans people in the UK aren't allowed in public bathrooms because what? I guess I'll just piss on the floor. I don't think that law's gonna work because I've been to the bathroom in public multiple times. Stuff like that is just the same as the sports debate, really. Like that woman who got stopped midway through a biking race because she was catching up to the men. Guys, can we just de-gender sports and use gender-neutral bathrooms, it cannot be that hard. If you're really scared of like creeps in the bathrooms, then focus on the actual demographic of people that are committing offences, cisgendered men, and stop screaming over trans women, or cis women who don't fit your idea of feminine, or little boys with long hair or girls with deep voices. In general, and saying this to the government, stop deflecting. And while I'm still here and you're still watching, during my research for this part, I found this amazing article going through the many misconceptions around trans people, which I think you should definitely read. I'll leave that in the description. I hope that you found this video useful and nice to watch. It means so much to me that you've actually made it this far. But anyway, that was my big yap about how awesome being transgender is. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my other video about being transgender, and goodbye!